Welcome, William Bell. Such a good singer. Such a treat to hear you sing.
Thank you so much.
We've enjoyed getting to hear your new record and getting to dive into your music and get to know you a little bit in anticipation of your visit. Hope you're doing well.
Oh, it's doing wonderful. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
I want to talk a little bit about the early days in Memphis because I was, as I was introducing you, just talking about that scene that you grew up in, and I'm wondering, just when you were a little kid, did you have a large family in Memphis that you grew up around?
Not really a large one. It was me and my mom and two brothers and a sister.
Yeah.
That was about it.
Yeah.
And growing up there it was a good time because in my neighborhood we had all kinds of music coming along, and quite a few of the Stax people grew up in the same neighborhood.
Yeah. Was there anyone? Do you remember like a moment or a song or an artist that made you think, man, I could be a singer, I could be a musician?
Yeah, I started in church singing gospel music with the choir and everything, and my mom, and but I was a Sam Cooke fan, and even when he was with the Soul Stirrers, I was listening to Sam at a kind of weird kid. I was very young age, but I was listening to Sam Cooke and Nat Cole and Frank Sinatra and people like that, even at 7 and 8 years old.
Wow. And so you started getting around some other friends and singing, because the alternative was, I suppose if you didn't make music, you would have made some kind of trouble probably.
Oh, yeah. There was plenty of ways to get in trouble. But in my neighborhood, you had Maurice White from Earth, Wind, and Fire, and you had David Porter that went on to become a wonderful writer with Isaac Hayes and all that with the Stax people. And there were a lot of people in the neighborhood. So we would get out under the street lights at night and do the doo-wop thing, and until the neighbors would run us in. But we had a lot of just important music coming along during that time.
I heard there was a place on Beale Street called the Flamingo Room that was kind of a good spot for you.
It was. I was hired to do a song on the weekend at the Flamingo Room, and it was kind of a fluke because some friends of mine entered me into a talent contest and dared me to enter, and of course, don't dare me, I entered and I won. So I came to the attention of old man Phineas, who was the band leader there. He had kind of like a 14-piece orchestra, and he asked my mom if I could work like on Friday night and Saturday nights, and of course, coming right from church, she said no. But he persevered.
How old were you then?
I was probably about 14 then.
Oh, wow.
And finally he wore down, and she agreed and told him one of the conditions was, as long as you're able to go to church on Sunday mornings, you can work down there on Friday and Saturday night. And so that was the key.
And it was radio a big thing for everybody's world in those days, just listening to the radio?
It was, because this is just, TV was just coming into vogue then, but radio was the main thing, and you had 2 or 3 stations there that played all kinds of music, because you heard everything on one station. WDIA played gospel, they played jazz, blues, country and western, everything. Yeah. So we were well-rounded and had all kinds of things coming our way.
Now, were you aware, because by the time you were 15 or 16, the whole Sam Phillips and Some Records and Elvis thing, were you aware of all that stuff that was percolating? Or was that sort of outside your...
Oh, yeah, we all grew up. Elvis used to come to the Flamingo Room and sit in the back and watch the shows when we would do them. So, but we all knew each other and grew up. Elvis lived about maybe a mile away from where I grew up, so we all knew each other, and God, so many others, Charlie Rich and all those guys that came out of Memphis during that time with Sun Records.
Yeah. And when you got signed to Stax Records, you're suddenly, well, I know you worked with Rufus Thomas first. That was like your first real gig, right?
Yeah, Rufus was like a surrogate father to me. You know, he kind of took me under his wings, and he did a show at the Palace Theater on Beale Street, and I would they would let me in the back door, so I'd come in and wrap up in the curtain and watch his performance. You know, I wasn't supposed to be in there, but they let me in.
You had to hide in the curtain? You had to roll up like a burrito
roll
in
up
there?
in the curtain. But I cut my first record. I wrote a song called "Alone on a Rainy Night." I had a vocal group called the Del Rios.
Right.
And I cut my first song with Rufus's band, the Bearcats, backing me up. And so then when Carla, Rufus's daughter, had Gee Whiz, they asked me and my group if I would do the backup singing behind Gee Whiz, and that's how we came to the attention of Stax.
Yeah. And once you got signed to Stax, did they have like a building, like an old church or a movie theater or something that they used to make the recordings? Or
they had an old movie theater that was converted, still had all of the same draperies and everything on. That's where the sound came from. And they took the actual stage area, made a control room and all of that. And so we cut everything live.
Yeah.
During those days. We only had, I think, 2 tracks or 4 tracks or something like that, and we cut everything live.
I heard it was kind of like a tough place for a session because it didn't have any heat or air conditioning, and that the floor was slanted.
It did. It was like a theater floor with the slanted floor, and the vocalist was way behind the screen up at the top end of it, and all of the musicians were down like midway. So we had to really hone our craft and learn discipline and everything because cutting everything live, you know, if you made a mistake, you had to start all over again. So it was fun.
Well, man, oh man, what an amazing scene to be a part of and to make a contribution. I mean, obviously you were valued by them as well. Hey, in case you just tuned in, you're listening to eTown. I'm here with William Bell. I want to talk just a little more about your young career. I know you moved to Atlanta at some point, and again, that was a whole nother kind of scene on the radio too, right? Like a whole different radio world.
Yeah. You know, I after Stax went under, because when we started with Stax, we were just young kids, so we didn't know it would ever end. And of course, Stax went under, and I wanted a change of scenery and venue, so I moved to Atlanta, and Booker T moved to Los Angeles, you know. And but when I moved to Atlanta, it was a whole different vibe there, and but it was good because I had been going to Atlanta doing concerts, and so I fell in love with the city. But it was just a different approach to everything. The music scene was totally different there.
Yeah. I heard there was a station called WERD that was down there, and that was near where Dr. King had his office.
Absolutely. And so, of course, during my lifetime, I had the pleasure of meeting Dr. King and Coretta King and the kids and all. So it was, ERD was kind of like the sister station to WDIA in Memphis. They were like the first two black stations in the country there that played music,
Wow. And how much did your life change when first Albert King and then Cream recorded Born Under a Bad Sign?
Actually, you know, we didn't realize the impact that song would have. Of course, I happened to be in the studio when Albert was recording, and he didn't have enough songs at the end of the session. And Jim Stewart asked me if I had a song that Albert could do, which was Born Under a Bad Sign. And so Albert cut it, and it became his signature song, a big hit for him. And then, of course, Eric Clapton, Cream, and Jack Bruce did their take on it, and they sold just millions of copies worldwide on it. And it became like a standard blues song, you know, blues and rock song. So it really the career blossomed after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you did you have one of those moments where you go to your mailbox and you open an envelope and it's like, oh my God, look at this check I just got?
Oh yeah, you know, I'm still doing mailbox duty.
Well, let's get up to date now. I mean, this your new record, This Is Where I Live. Congratulations on the Grammy win, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
How did you connect with John Leventhal, the producer you worked with on that record?
Actually, it was a combination of my management, Blind Ambition, out of Atlanta, and then we got with another gentleman there that was with Stax Concord Records, and he put John and I together. We had gone through maybe 3 or 4 different people to do some collaborating with, and nothing ever clicked until John and I got together. And when we got together, it just clicked. And he's such a wonderful arranger, musician, songwriter, and of course he's husband to Roseanne Cash and all that stuff,
Right.
and a Grammy winner and all that.
Yeah.
So everything clicked, and we took about, after talking for about 2 months together, feeling each other out, we took about a year to go and write these songs because we wanted to ensure that we didn't dwell on the old Stax sound, but we wanted to retain some of it
Yeah.
and broaden this sound a little bit and make it more inclusive of other music. So we took about a year, took our time and wrote some good melodic structure and good lyrical content for these songs.
Yeah, it's really interesting because it is honoring the past. You can tell that it's got some flavors and some pieces and parts of either horn arrangements or string arrangements or just the structure of the songs that certainly is familiar to those of us who listen to those songs and that music. But it's modern too.
Well, John he was a student of the Stax sound and
Yeah.
everything. This was his first soul project, but Joe McEwen, the gentleman from Stax Concord that put this thing together for us, he just encouraged us to work at it and to be inclusive of some of the sounds that Stax had during the day. And John did his homework, so he did very well on it.
Yeah, no, it worked well. We're going to get to more music in just a minute, but before we do, I know you'd mentioned that you'd had some mentors when you were coming up, Rufus Thomas among them, but now there's a film called Take Me to the River. You're collaborating with Snoop Dogg, among others. And are you sort of thinking about, the next generations to come and helping out this, making sure this tradition continues?
Yes. A couple of years ago, we got with Martin Shore, who's the actual director, producer of Take Me to the River, and we did the first installment of it. And we had the idea of working crossing genres. So we had rappers working with blues singers and soul singers and younger acts, 7 and 8 years old, including in it. And we worked with the Stax kids there, who I've been working with for quite a while.
Oh, wow.
And we had just mixed it all up, and it really was a great idea because it was just rewarding and we learned so much from each other.
Yeah.
And it was rewarding to do that, and we won all kinds of awards and accolades from that particular one. And we're doing part 2 now, the sequel
cool.
to it.
Yeah.
And we just got through filming a couple of segments, but we're doing this one not with the Memphis musicians, we're doing it with the New Orleans musicians,
cool.
because it's that same river, the Mississippi,
Yeah.
that transported all those musicians up and down it. Yeah.
That's wild. So when you're working in the room with Snoop Dogg, do you get high just being in the room?
You know what? He is such a great guy. I mean, when we first hit it off, and he's so respectful.
Yeah, he'd done his homework too.
He knew all of my music,
knew all
all
about
of
you.
that,
Yeah.
and he said, "Man, I've been listening to you my whole life." And I asked him how old he was, and he said, "Yep, you've been listening to me your whole life." But we did a concert, and he said, we were all dressing in this, because an outdoor concert, we had this trailer backstage we were dressing in. He said, "We're going to step in the back room." And I started laughing. I said, "You don't have to step in the back room. I know what's going on." But yeah, he's cool about it, though.
Yeah. William, you mentioned the Stax kids. What is that?
It's the kids that from the neighborhoods that we grew up with, and mostly underprivileged kids, but talented. And we think back on my career with all of the guys like Phineas and Rufus and all those guys taking me on, B.B. King and Bobby Bland, taking me under their wings.
Yeah.
And I was like 14. So we've got all these kids that's coming along, and we have a charter school for them now. And within the last 4 years, we've had 100% graduation rate.
Wow.
Wow. Yes. We have a Fax Academy, and the kids can learn all aspects of the entertainment, from performing to management to engineering and recording, all of that. And we're just happy that I've taken them on the road with me for a couple of times, and they just wowed people. We've gone overseas and everywhere with them, and they just really talented kids. And I feel like a proud grandpa, when I see them,
Well, it reminds me of the title song of your record, This Is Where I Live, giving back. This is where I give my love, my time, my money, investing in your community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, that's, with the arts being taken out of the school and all of that now, that's needed.
Yeah.
We've been working with the Berkeley School of Music, doing the same thing with an educational initiative, and we're doing some more of that this year. So we're all over the place, not only stateside, but in Europe and Spain. We went over there and lectured some of the kids over there at the Berkeley School there. So we're all over the place.
You're really giving back, aren't you? You've had a good run, and you're giving back.
Well, we have to, perpetuate the music.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You're going to be 78 on your next birthday?
Absolutely.
What's anything on your mind that's like you still want to get done, or a collaboration you're hoping to sort of sing with somebody? Or it sounds like this Stax Kids is really taking up a good part of your energy.
But I started acting for a while, and I never. Because back in the day, I always got these scripts that wanted me to be a pimp, a hustler, or something, and I wanted to be a Sidney Poitier. I wanted the good scripts, but so I'm reading a couple of scripts and everything now,
great.
And hopefully something will come along that I can sink my teeth into.
Amazing. What an inspiring story. William, thank you so much for sharing a little bit of that with us. And we've got so much music to get to, but I'm so glad you could visit and stop by eTown on this run.
Oh, anytime, man. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, let's get back to music. Help me welcome back the remarkable William Bell.
And I go through a little monologue thing, but it won't affect what you're playing. And I'll bring it back up in 3 stages, a little higher, and then all the way.
How does it end?
Said I'm sorry, over that time. I forgot to be your lover. Yes, I did.
Hi, this is Nick Forster from eTown. If you want to stay up to date with all the performances, interviews, and behind-the-scenes footage, click the subscribe button. Thanks.